What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, bringing on the bacon, MLB DFS video. It is Friday. It is August 11th, and we are back bringing you an entire breakdown. Batters, pitchers, splits, ballpark factors, and right at the end of the video, or towards the end of the video, we're going to give you our top 10 pitchers and batters from our simulations. So what we do, FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, we run 10,000 simulations throughout the day. At the 10,000th mark, we throw them in there, and those are the ones that, when we do simulations, it is taking ballpark factors, BVP matchups, weather, wind, everything, and spitting out X amount of players for you guys to use. So we do it 10,000 total times during the day, so we wait until about 4 p.m. Eastern, 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern to run the final simulations to get most of the lineups out. Then we run that, we put it on the website, and we're going to give you the top 10 on each as of running 2,000 simulations. So this is just the beginning. If you want to see the rest, they're on the website. FantasyTeamAdvisors.com is the website. Under the MLB tab, you can see we have a ton of information here. So the DFS player projections are what is simulated 10,000 times at the end, towards the end of the day before lineups lock, so we can get those in there. They come with Fanduel and DraftKings scoring, stuff like that. Batter splits are there. It's kind of what we're going to go over. We got BVP matchup. We got everything. If you haven't checked the website out, go check it out. If these videos are enough for you, that's awesome. That is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to make you a better DFS player by building out a rapport with you guys to kind of open your eyes to see what to look for. We take the hard work out of it. So I know a lot of people don't have time to go through all of the stats, all of the players, all the matchup, ballpark rankings, everything like that. So we're going to do it for you. If you find this video helpful, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you need a little bit more help, FTA Plus, you can get a month, $24.99, or you can use the promo code NFLVIP right now under the yearly pass, and you can get $100 off the year, get a year pass for $99, and hopefully bring home some bacon with us. As of now, the year pass or the month or the week or whatever you get includes MLB, MMA, NASCAR, NFL, and PGA. Now, we're not really going to do NFL preseason because it's such a crapshoot. I do tweet out some plays and picks and stuff to look at for preseason. So if you haven't already, follow us at advisors_team. So if you don't know, anytime a video gets at least 50 likes and you leave a comment and you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, you have a chance to win a free week of DFS content. If the video gets 100 likes, you have a chance to win a free month. If the video gets 125 likes, you have a chance to win a free year. And if any video gets 150 likes, you have a chance to win a lifetime pass. So we are going to choose. We've already thrown in yesterday's video. We had a ton of likes. We had a ton of comments. And this is going to randomly pick a comment from yesterday's video. And this will be a winner. So let's see who the winner is from yesterday's video right now. Congratulations to Tierra Butler. Awesome video, thanks. I believe this is the first time I've seen your username or comment on the channel. If you see this, like this video, let me know you saw it, and then there's two ways to get in hold of me. You can either email me dfshelp1@gmail.com, that's dfshelp1@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at advisors_team, or X, or whatever you want to call it, and we will get you set up for your free pass that you won for here. And just like her, anybody else, if you guys come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day, you have a chance to win every single day. The more likes we get, the more chances you have to win a week, a month, a year, or even a lifetime pass. So congratulations, Tierra. On to the next. We are going to dig into everything we want. For some reason, there's 2 early games here, which we are going to cover. They're not on DraftKings that I see. As of the making of this video, there is no slate for it, so we're going to use ESPN, and we're going to go over it a little bit if you guys do end up playing. You can do it on FanDuel because they have an all-day slate. So, and these are only, 25 minutes before first pitch lock on 6:05 on the normal time. So not too bad. So let's dig into these right now. So looking at the first game, we have the Guardians at the Tampa Bay Rays. You got Xavier Curry versus Aaron Savale. I don't really like a lot here, but we're going to dig in and look at it. So looking at Curry here, you can see 5 innings. He's gone one start that he's actually gone 5 innings. Other thing like that, you see he's an opener. He comes in and doesn't do too much. So there's not much I want to look at. I'm not looking at him. You can't trust him at all. While, maybe he could go 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 Ks again, but at the same time, I really don't know if that's even going to be an option. So sadly, probably going to stay away from him in cash. If you are one to want to play an all-day slate and you play multiple lineups, you want to play tournaments, I don't mind him as a tournament play. Just kind of be weary. Don't really know if we can count on 5 innings out of him. So he's pretty much out of what I'm looking at. And then we've got Aaron Savale here. Has only faced, his former team for 7 plate appearances. So we can look at Aaron Savale. Whether or not, the Guardians have an edge on, well, he doesn't, does he not have a page? Oh, ESPN's down right now? Give me a second. All right, so apparently ESPN is down right now, looking at stats of players. Looking at this, if you are playing an all-day slate, I don't mind Savale against the Guardians. And we'll dig into the numbers a little bit. So let's take a look at both the Guardians and the Tampa Bay Rays and see how they fare batter-wise against the pitching. So just looking at this, looking at these two teams here, see how they rank against right-handed pitching. Tampa Bay, right now, currently as an overall team, have had 3,533 plate appearances against right-handers, only walking 8.7% of the time, striking out 22.9% of the time there. So, they're only batting .254 as a team against righties, which I honestly, that's not the best. But then we can look at it here. So let's take a look at Cleveland. Look at Cleveland and see how they are down here. What is this? So looking at Cleveland, Cleveland's actually as an entire team striking out only 18.6% of the time against right-handed pitching, and that's the best. They are currently ranked number 1 for actually 30th overall for strikeout percentage. So in this theory, the bigger the number, the better. So they are actually really good against right-handed pitching. That might be, overall, that's not too bad. So when we dig into this, we can look at both the Guardians and Tampa Bay. And the batters that kind of jump out there, Tampa Bay-wise, Siri has some good slugging and really good isolated power against righties. Josh Lowe here, 281 average, 503 slugging, 222 ISO, 827 OPS. Don't mind that there. Jose Ramirez, if we're looking at that, Tampa Bay, Harold Ramirez a little bit I'd look at. Rosa Reyna has a 366 OBP against righties. Luke Raley has some great green numbers there I'd look at. Yandy Diaz as well, 315 batting average against righties. And then if you look at Cleveland bats, because they aren't striking out a ton, Ahmed Rosario has been traded. Jose Ramirez, fantastic numbers, as long as he is not in, he's still waiting to be suspended. Whether or not that gets upheld right now and it starts, we'll see. But if Jose Ramirez is in, I absolutely love Jose Ramirez. Naylor's on the IL. Andres Jimenez, I don't mind. Will Brennan, Stephen Kwan, I don't mind those bats as well in this game. So those would be the bats that I'd look at in this game. Probably not taking pitching here. Probably not even playing these 2 early slates. But I wanted to bring these to your attention just to see. Then the next game, you got the Yankees at the Marlins. The way the Yankees have been going, Lizardo, Jesus Lizard, probably going to have a perfect game here. They're just looking absolutely terrible. We don't even know who's pitching right now. Didn't even know who was pitching for the Yankees on Wednesday. until a couple hours before the game. And then it was Ian Hamilton who came in, did really good for 1 inning, and then they brought in Severino, who just shit the bed. I don't know what's wrong with him. So at the moment, we could just look at these numbers, but against lefties, let's see, which is crazy because the Yankees have a majority right-handed hitting lineup. They're striking out 22.1% of the time against lefties. They are ranked, let's see, 13th, so pretty much middle of the pack against lefties, and which is crazy because they've got Judge, they've got Harrison Bader, they have IKF, which, that's not saying much. They have a lot of right-handed batters that shouldn't be striking out against lefties, but they are. Luzardo has only faced 10 Yankees. Probably am looking towards Luzardo here if I'm playing the early one. Don't know who's going to be pitching here, so depending on when this comes out, we'll see. This will be where the simulations come through once we find out who is actually pitching on this side. But in this instance, no matter probably whoever it is, I'm probably taking Luzardo in this one. So that'll bring us to the main slate here. Got the Oakland Athletics versus the Washington Nationals. Paul Blackburn versus to be announced. So let's look. Paul Blackburn here. In Washington, maybe looking at Adon. So he should have a permanent spot in the rotation. He pitched last on the 5th, so this could be his spot here. Coming off a really good game against Cincy. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 23.7 fantasy points. So not bad. And then let's find Paul Blackburn here. Looking at Blackburn, he's had some really good games against San Francisco and at Colorado. We used him last time. Now he gets a juicy-ish matchup against Washington. He's never faced them before. He's on the road. He is worse on the road, though. He's only averaging 10.6 fantasy points per game on the road in 4 starts. Not the best. Probably avoiding this. Probably just avoiding the bats in both of these. We're not even going to go over the bats here just because there's nothing here. If you are using any of the Washington bats, then looking at that, it's probably, Lane Thomas has been absolutely on fire right now. CJ Abrams is one I would look at. Not a ton of other bats that I would use. This isn't a team that I would be stacking. Blackburn has had his successes. Yes, he's on the road. We'll kind of have to wait for weather to see if that's a factor at all. But looking at this, I'm probably just completely avoiding this game, and we'll go into other games here because we have better options on the slate, such as this one. The Reds at the Pirates. Andrew Abbott versus Johan Oviedo. Andrew Abbott's never faced the Pirates before. He's been decent this year. We'll look at him. He's always expensive now. He's the 4th highest priced pitcher on the slate. Looking at this game log against Washington, which was a good matchup for him, his last start. 5.2 innings, 6 earned runs, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts, minus 1.7. Then against the Cubs, 4.7. Those aren't, for his price at night, he was $10,000. They dropped him $200. He struggled. The Reds have been struggling since the All-Star break, or the trade deadline, I should say. Now we bring him on the road in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been, if they just put up a lot of fight for against the mighty Braves, and now they get a better-ish matchup against the Reds. This one, I just think he's too expensive at $9,800. Considering what he's done, he's worse on the road. He's struck out less on the road, has given up less home runs. He's just so expensive, I can't trust him enough. And then we look at Oviedo. So he's way down here at 7,000. Looking at game logs, this is where I think we're a little bit different than other DFS providers. I was wrong. I did not go with Oviedo. I stacked the Brewers against him his last start. Backfired. He went 7 innings of 3 walks, 6 Ks, no earned runs. Got 28.8 fantasy points there. Hasn't faced Cincy this year. He's pitching at home. His ERA's, it's up there, but it's a little bit better at home. 4.03 ERA there. That being said, I don't know if I want a ton of exposure to him because the Reds are the Reds. We know that they can hit. They've got a ton of great bats in that lineup. but we can look at them. So Oviedo, I don't mind tournaments-wise. I'm okay with that. But we are going to look at the Pittsburgh Pirates against lefties, and we are going to look at the Reds against righties. So if we're going to look at the Reds here against righties, and then Pittsburgh bats here against lefties. So if we're looking at Pittsburgh against lefties, Cabrian Hayes had a pretty good day on Thursday. 272 batting average against lefties here. You got Jack Sawinski, not so much. There's a lot of red and orange there that I don't like. McCutcheon, I don't mind him there, 245 batting average. Brian Reynolds is got a lot more red and orange and green. Rodolfo Castro, I don't mind. He's going to be a cheap option. He's 290 batting average, 368 OBP, 538 slugging there, and a 906 OPS. I don't mind that, along with a 247 ISO. And then we can look at the Reds bats here. India's hurt. Will Benson, love Will Benson, 295 batting average against righties, 399 OBP. Friedel, I don't mind, 276 average there, 801 OPS. Fraley's on the IL. Ellie De La Cruz, like, he is still high priced. He is not like getting the fantasy points that we need for his price. So I think that's a trap. He obviously is capable of home runs, stolen bases. He's got to get on base to get us consistently where I feel comfortable with. So I might be fading Ellie. I would look at Spencer Steer, and I would look at Matt McClain as well. And I would look at Joey Votto too. Obviously, I would like this game for the Reds if it were in Cincy more than in Pittsburgh, but it's not. So that's kind of where I'd look at there. Lot to like about the Reds offense. A couple of bats for the Pirates, and then other than that, probably Oviedo in tournaments. Next game, Twins at the Phillies. We got Dallas Keuchel versus to be announced. So Keuchel making his second start. Against Arizona, 5 innings pitched, 8 hits allowed, 1 earned run, no strikeouts. That is why he didn't get any fantasy points. He got 3.3 fantasy points. Now he's going up against Philly. I'm not taking him. Splits-wise, it's the same thing. 1.8 ERA, but 3.3 fantasy points. Didn't do anything. He is 5,200. He is cheap, but it's not worth it. And then if we look at Philly, they think it's going to be Christopher Sanchez. He last pitched on Sunday. So this is his spot here. Didn't do too well against Kansas City, which was a plus matchup for him. And not really sure why. But we look at that. He hasn't faced Minnesota this year. Pitching at home, 4.58 ERA. So he is worse at home. Minnesota, they either strike out a ton or they put up some runs. There's really nowhere in between. That it's kind of what's crazy is it's those two things. Looking at those two things, overall, the bats. Let's take a look at the bats. So we'll look at Minnesota bats against left-handed pitching. And then we'll take a look at the the Phillies against left-handed pitching too. So if you aren't taking Sanchez, I'm not taking Keuchel. I don't think anyone is going to be taking Keuchel, and I don't think anyone would fault you for not going with Dallas Keuchel. The bats that you could use that makes sense: Donovan Solano, 284 average. Michael A. Taylor, a tournament I don't mind. Carlos Correa is starting to kind of heat up a little bit. I would look at him. Buxton's gone on the IL. Jeffers, really love Jeffers against the lefty. So would look at those bats there. And then if we aren't using those and we want to look at Phillies bats against lefties, Marsh is on the IL. Bryson Stott, I don't mind. Trey Turner's kind of coming on along strong. Alec Boehm, I love here. 330 batting average against lefties. Castellanos hits him really well. JT Realmuto as well. So overall, I'm not looking at the Twins. I'm not looking at Dallas Keuchel. I will look at Christopher Sanchez if it's actually him who's the one that is pitching in this game. And then I would definitely look at the Phillies as a stack against Dallas Keuchel. So hopefully Keuchel stays in the game long enough that we can take it to him with a Philly stack. Obviously, if he gets pulled early, it'll come to the bullpen, and then everything else is up in the air there. But if not, we are in for hopefully a good treat there, because Keuchel, it's crazy that he is still getting opportunities. So yeah, I would avoid Keuchel 100%. I would look at the Phillies as a stack. Brings us to the Cubs at the Blue Jays. You got Javier Assad versus Jose Barrios. So Assad, I believe, will be making a second start, right? Let's see. Yeah, so 2 starts. Or this will be his 3rd start. But he's not going deep into games. So he's one I would avoid completely as well. If he's not getting more than, you need at least 5 innings out of him to even make it worthwhile, especially at 6,000. Splits-wise, never faced Toronto before on the road. He's only been in the bullpen on the road, so these numbers don't matter. Then we look at Jose Barrios, who's really, overall, turned it on. Looked bad for a decent stretch there. 18 fantasy points in both games here. He is 9,200, so again, we'd like ideally around 20-ish fantasy points. Splits-wise, he hasn't faced the Cubs this year. Pitching at home, he's got a better ERA at home, 2.72 ERA. Basically the same amount of strikeouts, less home runs, less earned runs, and stuff like that. And 20 less innings pitched, but still his numbers are really good against the Cubs. So looking at this, let's take a look at both Toronto and the Cubs and see who's had more success, what bats we like, so on and so forth. So kind of looking at this, Brandon Belt, I don't mind. He's got 373 OBP there. Vlad for tournaments, I don't mind. Kiermaier, probably would avoid. Whit Merrifield, 296 average, I don't mind. Bellinger's got a 317 batting average. He's been hitting some bombs this year. He is back. Belly season is back. I would look at him. I would look at Ian Happ at the 375 OBP. Tauchman. If Tauchman leads off, I absolutely love him for both cash and tournaments. 381 OBP there. A lot of green out of him. Nico Horner, I like as well. Dansby Swanson, I like as well. And then if we're looking at Toronto bats overall, Danny Jansen, if he starts, I don't mind. I would look at him. Matt Chapman, I would look at as well. Springer, I would look at. And that's probably it for this game, bats-wise. I'm not using Assad. I would use Barrios, probably more only tournaments, but we'll kind of see. But I would use Barrios here, and then a mixture. If you're not using him, I would use a mixture of bats in this one, because this could be a shootout as well. So it really just depends on what Barrios we get. He is getting up there in price, so if he doesn't get at least 20-plus points, probably not 100% confident enough because he is so expensive. Next game, you got the Tigers at the Red Sox. Now, again, with this being Fenway, I'm a little bit leery on that. But we'll dig into the numbers here. So you got Tariq Skubal versus to be announced. So let's see who Boston has tentatively. So Chris Sale. So it looks like it's Chris Sale. Now, whether or not we get 5+ innings out of him, whether or not he only built up to 53 pitches. So I don't know if you want to pay $7,900 for somebody who might not make it into the 4th inning. He hasn't pitched since June 1st. He hasn't been super effective this year. 4.58 ERA out of him. That's my problem. And Detroit here. Overall, Detroit against lefties, they're ranked 20th. So they're ranked 10th. They're striking out 21.7% of the time against lefties. I just don't know how long he's going to go into the game. I don't trust Chris Sale enough. And then if we look at Tariq Skubal, this is going to be the power of the lefties here. Had a good game against Tampa Bay his last start. 23.8 fantasy points. That's really good. 3.67 ERA, 2-1 record. Road, he's in 2 starts on the road, 11.42 ERA. That's not good. Boston can hit lefties. So we will look at it, but let's take a look at both Boston. Well, they're going to go against lefties. So both Boston and Detroit on how successful they have been against lefties. So looking at this, I wouldn't use Miggy. I just don't trust Miggy enough. Could have a good game. I just don't trust him. I would look at Justin Turner. I would look at Tristan Casas. Definitely Riley Green has been amazing this year for us. I would avoid probably Short and Baez. I would look at not a ton here. Matt Vierling, maybe a little bit. Torkelson and Rob Refsnyder. So overall, this might be just a game that I avoid, but I'm probably not taking either pitcher in this one because I don't think I can trust them enough to make me feel confident enough. Next game, Braves at the Mets. You got Charlie Morton versus Tyler Meagle. Morton's faced 165 plate appearances, 246 batting average. Meagle, 65 plate appearances, 259 batting average there. So they've seen enough of each other. So then we look here, and Charlie Morton's up there, ranked 5th overall in price on DraftKings. Game logs, not a good game against the Cubs. An okay game against LA. And then it's been a while since he's had success, about a month. So we look at his splits. He's on the road. Just a little bit better ERA there. Again, not the best. At 9,600, I don't think I can trust him, even against the Mets, which is crazy to say, but I don't think I can trust him enough. Then we have to come down here for Tyler Meagle at 6,200 against the Braves. Yeah, he's faced him once this year, 5.2 innings, 3 earned runs, 4.77 ERA. Game logs, he's had one good game against St. Louis, and that's basically it lately. And we look at this. Home games, he is better at home because this is a pitcher's park, but this is a Braves team that I am not targeting against. So looking at this game, probably just going to be looking at the Braves, but we can look at both teams. We can take a gander, and we can kind of see if there's any bats here. So if you're not going with either pitcher, which I probably wouldn't, I would definitely be looking at Pete Alonso. I'd be looking at Sean Murphy, Brandon Nimmo. Matt Olson is absolutely killing it this year. I'd look at him. I would look at Acuna. I would look at Orlando Arcia. Albies, I would have some exposure to both Lindor and Harris. I would have exposure to Austin Riley. I mean, there's a lot to like here in this lineup. I will be 100%. The Braves will probably be one of the top stacks overall for the day, and that's what I'd be targeting. So I'm not looking at Morton. I'm not looking at Meagle. I'm really not looking at the Mets bats. I'm 100% looking at the Braves, though, as one of my best top stacks today. Angels at the Astros is next. You got Reed Detmers versus Justin Verlander. Verlander, he's up there in price. For his price at 9,400, he had not too good against the Yankees, good against the Mets, good against the Yankees, good against... Well, these are going to be wrong because it's saying he faced his own team because he got traded. But had some good games there. Overall, though, I don't know what to think. Home games, 228 batting average, or ERA against him. Technically, his home was Citi Field. Now it's Houston, but he's had success. Obviously, won a World Series here, won a Cy Young in this ballpark. He's got a good matchup against the Los Angeles Angels. I would be looking at him. I'm probably paying $9,400 for him rather than paying for Morton or Abbott. Maybe even Barrios there, because you can see they're right around the same range. That's kind of what I'd look at. Reed Detmers overall. I'm not taking Reed Detmers against this team, because where is it at? There he is. 8,400 game log, not good game against Seattle, not really good game against Toronto. Pittsburgh, he did pretty good. Houston, last time, not so good. So we look at Houston here. He's faced him twice this year. 11 hits allowed in 11 innings pitched, 8 earned runs, 6.55 ERA. Overall, on the road, he's got a worse ERA on the road. He's going up against a stacked Astros team that are starting to hit on all cylinders as a team. Probably avoiding him. I will look at Verlander a little bit, and then I would look at. I'm probably not look if you're taking any Angels bats, it would be Ohtani. That'd probably be the only one that I'd like. And then overall with Verlander, I would take him, and then I would take the Astros bats. I would be looking at Kyle Tucker. He's really good against lefties. I would look at Yordan. I would look at Bregman. I would look at Chas McCormick. Altuve obviously leading off. You're going to get 4+ at-bats out of him. Don't be surprised if he gets, 2+ total bases. I would not be surprised if Altuve hits a home run either here. So I'm avoiding Detmers. I'm avoiding most of the Angels bats. I would look at Ohtani. It's pretty much the only one I want. And then I would look at a full Astro stack and Verlander as one of my top pitching options on the entire day. Cardinals at the Royals, Adam Wainwright versus to be announced. Usually, if you've been with us before, you know that I love taking a team against Wainwright, and I love taking a pitcher against Kansas City in Kansas City. But this ain't it for Wainwright. He is so bad this year. It's 5,500. Game log, minus 3.9. 5.5, 9.7, minus. He has been absolutely trash. Could he have a good game against Kansas City? Yes, he could. Will I have exposure? Absolutely not have exposure. Away games, he's got a 6.16 ERA. On the road, or at home, 9.26. Overall, 781. I do not want anything to do with him. Don't trust him. He's not going in deep into games enough that we like. 3 innings, 6, 5, 3, 1. It's not what I want to do. I would rather take, which is crazy, and I think this is the first time in 4+ months that I'm saying we could be looking at a Royals stack, which I don't think I've said at all. I mean, if anyone's been here the whole time, let me know, but I don't think I've said it. But it's just like, who are you going to stack? Bobby Witt Jr. would be my number one option in this team. Nick Pratto I would look at just for a 404 BABIP, but there's not a lot of green and light yellow here. There's a lot of red and orange, but I don't like this matchup for any of these bats. You see a lot of them don't strike out a ton. Kyle Isbell I would look at. Olivares, Michael Massey, Bobby Witt, Salvi, Michael Garcia. These are ones, I think this will be an under-owned stack. I think we could have some success with this. So I'm all for taking Wainwright to get absolutely lit up, taking the Royals as a stack. And then if there's, let's see, do they have anyone listed for Kansas City to pitch? Zerpa. Yeah, no. 6.7 ERA. I mean, there's nothing there. We could be looking at Arenado, Lars Nootbaar, Dylan Carlson, Goldie. Those would probably be the bats that I would look at against, if that's who's starting for Kansas City, and then the stack Kansas City against Adam Wainwright. I'd feel confident with that one. Next game, Brewers at the White Sox. You got Corbin Burnes versus Michael Kopech. So Burnes is the highest priced pitcher on the slate. We see him here. Game log wise, for his price, he's not hitting value since July 20th. He's hit lower than value from what we need. He had a good matchup last time against Pittsburgh. 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks, only 15.9. Those should be good numbers, but he had 4 walks, which diminished his fantasy points. Splits-wise, he hasn't faced Chicago this year. Overall, in his career, only 24 plate appearances against him, so not much. Looking at that, away games, he's got a better ERA on the road. He's got more strikeouts on the road. He's in a fantastic spot. I love me some Corbin Burnes here. He's not my number one pitcher on the slate. You guys, well, you can already obviously have seen that. If you're here looking, you obviously clicked on the video seeing the picture that I like, which we will get to. But I like Corbin Burnes here. And then Michael Kopech, we can look at Michael Kopech. He should be right. Yeah, there he is. He's right around there. Against Cleveland, 5.1 innings, 2 earned runs. Not a lot here. Splits-wise, hasn't faced Milwaukee this year. Overall, only 18 plate appearances out of him. Home games, he is worse just by a tad at home. He's given up a lot of more. He's given up 29 earned runs. He's given up a ton of home runs here. So, yeah, probably not taking Kopech. I would look at Burnes in this situation, but we can look at both of these teams, and we can kind of see if Chicago or Milwaukee, which bats. Obviously, Yelich is going to be at the top, but William Contreras, I don't mind. He's had success here. Andrew Vaughn, I'm probably avoiding. If you aren't going with Corbin Burnes, Luis Robert Jr. has some great numbers here. He did jam his, I believe, pinky finger on the base on, was it Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday against the Yankees, and then he went out precautionary. He had nothing wrong with him. So he should be back in there, but that is definitely something to look at. The number one I'd probably look in here would be Christian Yelich, obviously. I have a little bit of exposure if I'm taking Chicago bats. Benintendi, Yohan Moncada, I don't mind. Tim Anderson's probably going to be suspended this. I don't know how long the process takes. He'll probably be out. That's probably it. I wouldn't. More likely, I'm going to be looking at Corbin Burns. And then the Brewers bats, I would look at Yelich, Willy Adames, William Contreras would be what I'd like in this game. Not going to have Kopech and really don't want much to do with the White Sox bats either. Padres at the Diamondbacks is the next game. You got Blake Snell versus to be announced. Obviously, I love Blake Snell. That's why he's the picture of the video and the article. He is expensive. He is going up against Arizona. And, 3 weeks ago, I would have said Arizona's a really good team. I wouldn't trust them to get pitched very well against, but they have struggled since the trade deadline. They have struggled. So looking at Snell, his last start against the Dodgers, which was a really tough start because the Dodgers are a good team. 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. It's the first time he's given up 3 earned runs since May 1st against the Reds. And yeah, he's been one of the best pitchers overall the past couple of months. The problem is he's only going 5 innings his last few starts. That's what I'm kind of scared about a little bit. Looking at this, though, away games, he is better away, but this ballpark is a hitter-friendly ballpark. I will put that there. 11 games started on the road. He has a little bit less Ks in one less start, more walks, more home runs, more earned runs. So he did drop in price a little bit, but the way that Arizona's been struggling, I really like Blake Snell here. And then on the flip side, if Arizona has put anyone out yet, Ryan Nelson, no, because he just pitched. He didn't? He pitched on the 5th? I could have swore he just pitched. So it's probably his start here. Splits-wise, he's faced San Diego twice this year. 10 innings pitched, 8 earned runs, 7.20 ERA against him. I love Blake Snell, and I love the San Diego bat. So if we look at this, let's take a look at the Arizona bats against lefties. And then the San Diego bats against righties. So San Diego being the visiting team, we'll go over them first. That messed up. But I would be looking at, if I am using San Diego bats, I'm looking at Machado. I would look at, although his ERA or his batting average against righties is not the best at 219. His numbers aren't the best. Might avoid him a little bit, actually. I would look at Ha-Seong Kim at 371 OBP. I would look at Bogarts at 355 OBP. Trent Grisham, I don't mind, but his batting average is low. Cronenworth, more of a tournament option. Juan Soto, fantastic numbers. And I would look at Fernando Tatis Jr. here as well. If we aren't going with Blake Snell for whatever reason and you want to go with someone else, you want to take the Arizona bats. Gabriel Moreno in 75 plate appearances, 377 batting average against lefties. Not too shabby. Corbin Carroll's got some good numbers there. Ketel Marte, McCarthy, and Lourdes Gurriel is who I would look at in this lineup here. But I'm loving some Blake Snell here and not going to love Ryan Nelson there. Then you've got Colorado at the Dodgers. Austin Gomber versus Lance Lynn. Gomber, he's been okay, I guess. We look at Gomber, and let's take a look. He is going to be down here. Where is he at? Did I miss him? Looking at him against the Dodgers, it's really hard to want to take a lefty against the Dodgers. Game log, he's been okay, especially at his price, 5,700. Hasn't faced the Dodgers at all this year. Overall, 64 plate appearances, 231 batting average. He is pitching away. Obviously, his ERA is going to be better away, but it's a 3.59 ERA. I would definitely stack the Dodgers here. I love Lance Lynn. He's actually been really good here. Dodgers bats that I'd look at, Mookie Betts. I would look at Freddie Freeman, lefty on lefty. I don't really matter. I would look at a little bit of Outman, probably. Kike Hernandez, if he's in there, I don't mind. Would be some of the bats I'd look at. And then I would look at Lance Lynn. So we look at Lance Lynn here. His splits are going to be off because he just got traded. So not like his splits aren't going to be 100% correct. But, I mean, coming off really good. He's had 2 good starts for the Dodgers. He's 8,900, so he is up there in price. Hasn't faced Colorado this year, but overall, he's not bad. Does have a 6.11 ERA, so it's probably tournament-only option for me. Yeah, I don't know if I trust Lance Lynn in cash enough. He's not all the way there that I would like. But we will let's look at the Dodgers bats. Well, we went over the Dodgers bats. So if you're not taking Lance Lynn for whatever reason, and you want to look at Colorado bats against righties, we can take a gander real quickly. CJ Cron's gone. I believe Blackman's still in the IL. Let me double check to make sure Blackman is still on the IL, which I feel like he's been on the IL forever. Actually, I can just look here. Yeah, he's still on the IL. See if there's any update on him. So he's still going to go to, yeah. He hasn't played since June 10th, so he's not an option there. He is hurt. Chris Bryant's hurt per usual. I wouldn't use Doyle. Grichuk's gone. Diaz I would use. Ryan McMahon I would use. Nolan Jones I would use. If you want to get a little bit creative, you want to get Contrarian, which we have Contrarian stacks on the website. They're not updated yet, but I think a lot of people are going to be on Lance Lynn, and you could get exposure to the field and get you some Colorado bats. I wouldn't use Gomber. I think this could be a high-scoring game here. You could look at some of those Rocky bats, like we just talked about, Tovar maybe, if you don't want to use Lance Lynn. So, but yeah, the Dodgers are going to be a very popular stack again, especially against a lefty. Then we got Baltimore Orioles at the Mariners. Kyle Gibson versus Luis Castillo. Gibson, 66 plate appearances, 421. Castillo, 29 plate appearances, 308. We look at this. Look at Kyle Gibson here. Right. Here we go. Against Seattle. Game logs. 2 really good starts here and then kind of iffy here. 7,700, I don't mind. Splits-wise, he's faced Seattle once this year, but he only went 3 innings, gave up 5 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, had a 15 ERA there. Now he's going to Seattle, cross time zones. Maybe they're tired. Who knows? That affects some people. Away games, he is better away. 395 batting average compared to 534. I don't know if I trust him enough. I'll possibly throw him into tournaments just for the main fact of the Mariners have been their overall as a team, they have not been what you would have expected considering they went to the playoffs last year, which is crazy. And they actually stood up with the Astros. It's just they've kind of reverted back a little bit. Looking overall, though, as well, Seattle's currently the second worst team in strikeout percentage, just behind Minnesota against right-handed pitching. They're striking out 26% of the time. They're not walking. They have a 232 batting average, only a 314 OBP, and a 402 slugging against there. Their ISO power is 170 against righties. If you take all those peripherals, that's not bad. Whatever this maybe outlier was in Seattle, see if it was in Seattle or so it was in Baltimore. He just had a bad game, off day. Could be a cheaper option at 7,700, especially since Seattle's struggling against right-handed pitching right now. So I would look at him, tournaments probably, or even SP2 on DraftKings for cash. And then we got Luis Castillo here. If you look at Luis Castillo and we look at his numbers, he is the third highest priced pitcher on the slate at 10,000. He is averaging, 20, which is exactly what you're looking for. If he's 10,000, you want it, 2 times salary there, about 20. Game logs, not a good game against the Angels. 6 innings, 10 hits, 7 earned runs. His worst game in a while. We look at his splits. He hasn't faced Baltimore this year, but they are a very hot-hitting team. And then we look at this. Home games, he's got a better ERA at home, same amount of home runs, more strikeouts there against Baltimore. And then if we look at Baltimore against right-handed pitching, they're striking out 22.4% of the time, only walking 8% of the time there. Batting 251 against righties, 420 slugging. But the problem is they've been hitting really well right now. Like these numbers, of course, they're showing, but I would definitely look at Baltimore. And Seattle, probably avoiding Seattle bats, but we'll look at it. I'm probably going to be stacking Baltimore bats with Kyle Gibson here for the day. Probably avoiding Luis Castillo. I just don't trust him enough, especially at his price. If I'm looking at bats for Baltimore, I'm looking at Mountcastle, Henderson, Adley on fire right now. Maybe a little bit of Ryan O'Hearn batting 307 against righties. And then if you aren't taking Gibson, you are looking at Seattle bats. Teoscar is okay. Cal Raleigh if he starts, but who knows if he'll start. Suarez. J.P. Crawford's got some good numbers there. J.P. Crawford has a lot more green than a lot of people. He's been doing pretty well for us as well. So those would be kind of the ones I'd look at. Maybe Julio Rodriguez as well, and also Anthony Santander for Baltimore. But in my eyes, I'm probably looking at Kyle Gibson, and I'm probably avoiding Luis Castillo, and I would look at Baltimore bats. And then the final game on the slate, the Rangers at the Giants. You've got John Gray versus Scott Alexander. So this one, John Gray's up in the air. Probably a tournament option for me because he gets this fantastic ballpark to pitch in. San Francisco is a fantastic pitcher's park. We used him against Cleveland, went 5.1 innings, 2 earned runs. The problem is he's not going deep into games. And his price is $8,600. Oh, that's Kopech. What is going on? How did I don't even know. I mean, same thing with him. 8,100, going 5 innings. I was going to say the numbers were pretty similar. His last starting against Miami, 5.1 innings, 3 earned runs. 6. So he is getting 6 strikeouts here lately, 17.2. Splits wise, hasn't faced San Francisco this year. He's faced 108 of them, 255 batting average against him. Away games, got a better ERA away, and he's got a better ballpark here. I don't mind John Gray. If you don't want to pay up for 10,000 plus, John Gray could be a good option here. Scott Alexander, I believe, was. And that's the problem. So they're showing Stripling, but Stripling shows every single time. So let's take a look at Scott Alexander. Is he just an opener then? He must just be an opener. Game logs, 0 innings. Okay, so he's just an opener, so you wouldn't use him. Splits-wise, yeah. A 401 batting average. I would look at Texas bats. So let's take a look at both Texas. I wouldn't use the Giants bats, but we'll look at the bats just to make you guys feel comfortable. So San Francisco, Texas bats against righties. Seager, obviously, he's batting 356 against righties, number 1 in this lineup here. I would look at Jankowski at 296 batting average, Nate Lowe. Yeah, I'm all in on stacking Texas here. I would look at that. I would look at Ezekiel Duran. I would look at Marcus Semien, Robbie Grossman as well. San Francisco bats, if for whatever reason you're not going John Gray, I would look at Wilmer Flores. I would look at J.D. Davis, Lamont Wade Jr., Conforto, Jock Peterson. But I'll have more exposure to John Gray, and I'll have definite exposure to the Texas bats over Scott Alexander for maybe not even an inning total, and the Giants bats. And there you have it. Those are all of the breakdowns, all of the bats, all of the pitching that we like. And like I said, we would look at the top 10 bats and top 10 pitchers after simulating 2,000 times. So like I said, FantasyTeamAdvisors.com is the website. After, about 4 p.m. Central, we'll have the updated batters with all of the 10,000 simulations, and it'll come through, and people have been using them. We use them for sports betting. We use them for DFS. We've used them for everything. So let us know if you're interested. Go check out FantasyTeamAdvisors.com. So the top 10 bats are as followed. Now, this is only 2,000 simulations. Like I said, we will be doing 10,000 total. These are the first 2,000. Number 1, they like Christian Yelich against Kopech. Number 2 is Ronald Acuna versus Meagle. Number 3 is Willy Adames versus Kopech. Number 4 is Ohtani versus Verlander. Number 5 is Kyle Tucker versus Detmers. Number 6 is Matt Olson versus Meagle. Matt Olson, I think, has tied with Ohtani with 40 home runs after Thursday's games. Ellie De La Cruz against Oviedo. Bryce Terang versus Michael Kopech. Whit Merrifield versus Assad. And Brandon Belt versus Assad as well. So as you can see, that is 3 Milwaukee bats. And actually, there's a 4th Milwaukee bat at number 11, Andrew Monasterio, that it likes against Kopech. So yeah, those are the top 10. Again, Yelich, Acuna, Adames, Otani, Kyle Tucker, Matt Olson, Ellie De La Cruz, Bryce Terang, Whit Merrifield, and Brandon Belt. And then after looking at the pitching, these are the first ones it's gone through. Now, these will change, and, it doesn't, sometimes you got to go with your gut. So these are the top 10 so far. You got Luis Castillo, which I'm probably avoiding, but the first simulations, again, we do 10,000. Lance Lynn, Corbin Burns, Justin Verlander, Andrew Abbott, Kyle Gibson, Aaron Savale, which is not part of the main slate, so just use that. Johan Oviedo, Jose Barrios, and Reed Detmers. So out of these initial ones, I would cross out myself personally, Reed Detmers. I would cross out probably Savale, and I would probably cross out Castillo. Now, after I run them 10 or 8,000 more times, then I can tell you whether or not I would like them or not. So, that being said, there you have it. There are all of the breakdowns, all of the games, all of the pitching, all of the bats, all the simulations, and current. I guess we can do the ballpark rankings real quick. Park factors. As of now, these are the ballpark. Now, weather obviously will change, so depending on when you watch this could change a little bit. But just using the humidity, using the ballpark factors, the best teams to stack as of right now would be Milwaukee at Chicago, Minnesota at Philly, so definitely a Philly stack like I said. The Dodgers against Austin Gomber is a good option there. Those are the 3 main ones right now. Obviously during the day, and then Boston against Detroit, Fenway Park. You could look at both sides of there. It is a plus ballpark rankings there. So if you want to check everything out, we do have FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, MLB. We've got the umpire factors, which help out for prop bets, and then here's the ballpark stat ratings to tell you everything about ballparks, how many runs they give up, how many home runs they give up, everything that has to do with that. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Good luck on this slate, and as always, let's bring home some bacon. Peace.